This might be one of the longest videos I make, and I say that because I have a lot to talk about when it comes to just war, and lately everything feels unfamiliar and strange, and in our brain anything that is unfamiliar, it processes it immediately as dangerous. And I know a lot of us are mostly away from the places of war, but we are affected by the news of it nonetheless, because we can't really tell the difference between actually being in that situation and just hearing about it and then our body taking it as a threat to our existence. Also, it does really feel like a COVID 2.0 situation to us. And I don't think it's just about the war, it's how we react to distress, and we quickly align ourselves and our lives around it without really processing it. It's even when I open social media, the only thing all over my feed these days is war and conspiracy theories that people are preparing around it, and the newer and sometimes not even authorized information that keeps on appearing and overloading my brain. And we just go scroll for scroll, and I keep telling myself that I need to get off social media and that I shouldn't spiral. And I even think the same about news channels these days. I stopped watching them when I was younger because it was all negative news, and that is what would keep me feeling heavy all day. And I would just think about these situations and that how the odds are never really zero of any of these things happening to us. But there is only so far you can run away from politics and how it affects our daily lives. And so, stay in the loop. And I mostly prefer reading articles these days, like from trusted sources. I'll just read it online for some time, and I decided that I'll cap it at that and not just spiral into this thoughts of what is going to happen to us next. And honestly, it just feels so much lighter. And as I've already said before in my phone/social media addiction video, we often scroll social media to find a safe place and to offload our emotions onto something and to just sometimes even stop thinking about it. And there's honestly just two types of content on Instagram that works. One is relatable and the other is aspirational. Relatable is when you find comfort in other people who are in the same situation as you and you empathize with them because you see your reflection in them. And the other is aspirational, of things you just want to become, and maybe money and jets and everything else that feels fancy to our human brains. And the reason for your doom scrolling will always be much deeper and will be the fact that you need safety and confirmation from those sources. This is also a recurring theme in the book that I'm reading right now called The Body Keeps Score. It's always the war veterans or victims who get the worst end of the stick in these wars. They can never move past it even if it's been several years, and they just remember all of those incidents and traumas just like they've seen it yesterday. And the behavior that they show after is often they either shut down or they become numb to feeling anything, and they often feel alienated, isolated even in their families. And sometimes that behavior can also turn angry or violent. And then they tried putting those people into support groups with other such veterans as them, and they found more comfort and relatability with them than they did with their therapists or doctors or families even. And even though they are strangers, having the same war experiences and knowing that they have someone who has also seen the things that their own eyes have seen brings to them a sense of comradeship that to them is even bigger than the relationships that they have with their families. And honestly, it's baffling to me how people in power literally will equate the value of human lives to oil and to money and to gain control over other nations. Like the suffering never really affects them but affects us, the people who are at the bottom of it all. And I also think that part of that reason, despite the fact that these men have always lived really privileged lives and all of them just come from money and they somehow knew the right people and to go off of that. But the other thing that I think about is when you have not experienced the pain of birth, or if you have not understood it, you will never really be able to comprehend how much it takes to just birth one child into this world and all of the sufferings that come with it. And honestly, that is why I think the men in power do not think of human lives as something that valuable. In the book, Invisible Women, they talk about how men were the only ones initially thought of as hunters and gatherers. I mean, they also argue the point in the future about how they would just assume that, and I'll also talk about it in a bit. But the thing is, because of this and because of the need to survive and establish their territories so they would have a safe space for their families or even for themselves, they engaged in violence. And hence, it also proves true in the data when they say that nearly 96% of homicide killers are men. And it doesn't matter if men are the ones who have started the war, because it's also men that die in it. And especially, they also, as a society, are just told to ignore their emotions. But if you do that long enough, you often lose access to those emotions. And honestly, it's not people around you that can help you feel safe. And I'm talking to both men and women in this context, that it is only you who can make yourself feel safe, because your environment will always keep on changing, the people around you will always keep on changing. And I can definitely not say that I understand all of the sufferings of the people affected by this, but I want to keep praying for them, and I want to think that they have a better future and hope for them ahead of this. And I want to say that there is no one way in which you will stop feeling and seeing your trauma, because when I lost my dad, for about a year after that, every day I would have the same dream of him being alive and him telling me that, you know, XYZ reason happened, and that's why you had the funeral, and that you thought that I had died. But that was not really the truth. And by the time that dream ended, and until the time that I opened my eyes, I would just convince myself that it is real and that he is really here. But then I would open my eyes, and then the reality would hit, and I would just start crying. So, you know, cry if you find that things around you are overwhelming. And there's never really a set timeline on healing. So whatever you do, as long as you're not hurting others, take your time to process your emotions and to express them. Because I also journaled a lot. Like, I finished literally 2 books in a year, and I just broke down every emotion that I felt and why it happens and when I get sad and emotional or when I get angry. And just knowing that helped me a lot, because the next time that I felt those emotions, I knew what I had to do to get out of it. And I also just pray to the God a lot. And I know a lot of people are also equating the wars to just the world ending and it being signs of it. And I don't always remember the verses, or even when I read other books, I don't really remember what page or what story it was. I just remember the lessons from it and the things that I took with me. And I also think that the things that I take are the ones that are important, and those that I don't remember don't really matter anyway. But story in Bible that I'm talking about, when Jesus said that when it will feel like the end of the times, you don't go into panic mode, you don't do things that are unlike you. You just should pray, and don't forget to just ask God for strength, and just do the things that you need to do, and you keep on staying in your lane. And somehow, you know, even in the Bible, the destruction is equated to the pains of pregnancy and that of giving birth, and how those contractions are necessary to bring new life into the world. And I somehow think, you know, we have come so far as a society, but we did not ever make medications that make giving birth for women easier. Like, I know there's things that exist, but even like C-section and other things are painful for women to get back from. We should have made some sort of discoveries in that. This point does not tie into anything, but I'm just saying what I thought of saying. And there's also one story from Bible that I really like, and that I think fits into this situation, because despite everything, I also really like the story of Abraham and God talking about destroying the city of Sodom because it was corrupted. And at that time, Abraham's nephew Lot lived there, and so he was talking to the God about if he could just spare the city. Like, he was just trying to save the people there, and he was like, well, he negotiated with the God. He was like, well, if there are 50 nice people, will you let the city be? And God was like, okay. And then he just lowered the number until he was like, if there are 10 nice people, like 10 righteous people, I wanted to say, in the city, will you let them live, and will you let this go? And God was like, okay, I will let this go if there are 10 righteous people in the city. And that is what I think about when I think of Earth and as of all the evil in this world, I feel like it's always those 10 people among us, like even right now. Those 10 righteous people are just that valuable to God. And He's like, for these people, I will save the earth and I will save everyone else with them. So I just take heart in that, okay? That God will save us all just to save those 10 people. And now, talking about men, women, and the gender biases, I first want to bring back the fact that man is the most used word in all of history, and often it is used to describe just a human being. Like when they want to say that human being, like may it be male or female, they just want to say a human being, but they will use a word man instead of it. And like we equate the word to someone being male, and it is also true with some of the other words in English like policeman or fireman or postman and all of those things. It's not really that common to use gender neutral words when talking about those people in those fields. And it is also this, all of this is mentioned in the book Invisible Woman. So if you want to read more about the gender biases, you should definitely check that one out. And the point is that ever since discovered skeletons for the prehistoric humans, they were always thought to belong to a man. Like even if they found pelvis of a woman on that skeleton, they were like, no, this is a skeleton of a man, because there are weapons alongside it, and they have always equated that to being men, because in their minds it was the hunters and the gatherers of that time. But the truth was that Viking women also owned lands and also would fight in wars and were also hunters. So it wasn't really all that easy for people to come to admission that women can also be fighters and they can also do all of these things on their own. And I also think that it is the same today. Like the people who are expected to carry on emotionally, physically, and quietly are often women, and they are still not given their own identities. And ironically, even the whole world is based on male data. Like they have made the infrastructure of entire cities easy for the men to commute to and from work, and most medical researches for diseases have been conducted on men, and even the test dummies that were used for car safety regulations were all male. And they are trying to change the regulations now, and steps are being made, but I honestly think that it's still a slow process. And I don't know if it is because I've watched Liberation Notes the past week, but I do feel like women are overworked a lot, but often their work is not counted, or it is not considered a viable cause of. A man's job is seen and counted in years and also paid for in money, while a woman's work and the pressure and the stress from it is unpaid. And when I was younger, I refused to learn to cook because I just thought it was a skill that was taught to women to help them become great housewives. And honestly, somehow it just became from that into a skill that I needed to survive in this world and to take some pressure off of my mom. But like, why do men lack that empathy? Like, can't they just look at their moms or sisters or wives and think that, okay, well, they are overworked, so why don't I also learn how to cook and how to do the laundry and just help with those tasks when they are struggling so much? They just expect the pressure to be passed on to another woman in the family. And honestly, I'm just tired of the weaponized incompetence too. Pretending and not learning certain things in the house, or just about where the things in the kitchen are, because well, someone else will do it. And if you are a girl my age, or even a boy, or even someone older, I ask you to set these boundaries for the sake of the women in your house. Don't overwork them till the end, because they are human too, who need to experience things other than cooking, cleaning, and also be mindful about how you talk to them. And don't criticize their made with really hard work, food, or anything else that they do around the house, because they already have a bunch of responsibilities on them. And it's actually easier said than done, but even the women who are under the pressure of the society, and they have just turned patriarchal because of it, because they do not even, they are blinded to their own sufferings, and they just want to push even their daughters in the same cycles and suffering from the consequences that they themselves have suffered from. They are often consumed by the blindness that men are just superior and imperative to their living, and so often that they even forget that they themselves matter and they are human too, with blood in them and breath in them. And I don't know if it's just in India, but I feel like overwhelming amount of love is given to just the boy child for doing the bare minimum. Like girl will go and cook the food for whole family or get the best grades and jump through all of these hoops, and literally not even one person will tell her she's done a good job. But when a boy just plates his own food, he will taste for it. And I just practice micro acts of feminism in my daily life by just not falling into these systems and just being like, I can only do so much. The next thing you have to do by yourself. And if I do one thing, you need to do one thing in return for me for that. And now, so you might say, yeah, but how does dating tie into all of this? It's because now women are seeing all of those things and unfairness that is happening to them, and that has made the dating world pretty much non-existence and humiliating to even be a part of. I took my time to read the November 2025 article on how it is embarrassing to even have a boyfriend, because I did not really read it before. And it's basically just how people who once used to like post their boyfriends for clout or for money or to just make other people jealous, and snippets of a man's hand or just watch or car, or just to show that they have a boyfriend but also at the same time like protect them from evil eye, those people lost a lot of followers after doing that. And I think a bigger part of it was that also the men that they posted with, like, people on the internet would find anything, I swear. Like, they would even find if they are cheating with someone or their past scandals and the entire history of their being. And so I think that this generation of men just needs to get more social education and to learn empathy if they want to level up and escape the men loneliness epidemic. Like, I'm being so for real right now because the girls are so disillusioned by it all, and they've seen their mothers and their grandmothers suffer but still feed into the same cycles. And honestly, this is just my perspective of it. Okay, when I'm getting my full time and my attention and just 8 hours of sleep, and I can still exercise, go to my work, cook for myself, and make my own money and have time to relax, why would I bother getting a man? Because I just saw it the other day on Instagram, a man say that when a woman gets married or is in a dating stage with someone, the man adds like 7 extra hours of chore per week to her life. And so the girls are like, why would I give up my peace for a man who wants me to chase him and to do things for him? And it's only just the fact that women want, like, I don't even think a lot of women think about 50-50 in that way. All they want is nice gestures from men. Like, it's just a form of saying that, oh, I think of you and I don't want you to worry about such minor things, and I just want to do a nice thing for you just cause, and to just keep your peace and not think of it as a burden to them. And don't get me wrong, I'm a lover girl, but that behavior only goes so far as it is reciprocated by you. And I also think that part of the reason why men don't try to just break the systems and get out of it is because they are the ones benefited by it. Like, they think they're at the top of the chain, and quite frankly I think that they are too. But when you are in a comfortable position and in a system where you are benefited from it, why would you try to change anything, right? Like, literally, if supporting a man that has done heinous crimes but he will get me opportunities and some money for my business, I would just support him and just laugh at his jokes. And even if they are degrading, as long as I'm not the one making it, it doesn't seem to be a problem. And that is the mentality of some of these men. And just they have been told all their life, like I said before, with their families and with the women in their families praising them, and then the men in their families are like, well, now you're the man of the house. They have just become so entitled to the point that they have developed crazy self-belief, and most of the time they don't have the talents to back it up. I don't know, maybe it's just the experience and the unfairness in me speaking, but I try not to hold any resentment towards anybody and just come from a place of facts and knowing. I swear I'm going to make a video about crazy self-belief because even I have built it up brick by brick. So maybe I'll do that next week. Going back to dating, I feel like it steals a part of you unknowingly. Like, when you choose wrong and when you choose a person who just constantly wants you to change from one thing to another, you just keep on switching that and don't really think about your own identity and the things that you like and things that you want to do. And so you end up losing parts of yourself bit by bit. And also with those people, if you let a thing slide one too many times, they just consider that you will let a lot of bigger things slide too. And I hate the word adjustments. Like, if I don't see it bettering my life, why would I accommodate someone who is not willing to accept me as I am? And I just think that some rules for women are just better for us in some ways, like the thing about no sex before marriage, or about hypergamy, like only dating and marrying people who are a level above you or equal to you. And honestly, I think it's okay to want better in your life, and as long as money isn't your only point of focus, it doesn't matter. I've even said it in my previous video, you only get to pick one person in your life, and that is your partner. And if you're picking someone who you do not want, who you don't think will be a good husband, because there's a lot of good fathers in this world but not a lot of good husbands, and that is the example that you are setting in front of your child. Okay, obviously do not take a partner who treats you worse than you treat yourself. And if you are treating yourself badly, I suggest that you first look into self love and how give yourself the best life possible, and then go off of that. And honestly, it's a lack of respect when your partner doesn't shower or doesn't show basic respect or discipline, or even oversteps your boundaries, because you don't do those things, right? You are out here spending bank on your clothes and in the gym and to educate yourself. I just want to say that you need to choose better for yourself, for your freedom, and for your peace and safety. We are the ones who need to break the cycle, honestly, because men already are the ones benefiting from it, so they won't bother with it anyways. And I just thought about this the other day, but you know how we were disciplined as children, right? Because I have had slaps on my wrist and my arms one too many times for not doing my homework or just talking too much in the class. But I was in a conversation with two older ladies, and one of them had her granddaughter with her, and she was a very overactive child, so she was running everywhere. And we were just having the conversation about how we were like disciplined in school. I was like, yeah, like they should do that still and make sure that kids are kept in line. But as soon as those words left my mouth, I was like, well, but I also suffered before because of it. And even if I don't agree with those things, like how easy it is for us to just say those things and to agree to those things, right? I want to say that you often repeat patterns in dating about what you have suffered from your family. Like if you have seen violence around the house, or if you were bitten as a child, you might find it really easy to fall into the same patterns with your partner and just not find those things weird or out of place, because we often, and I mean our brain and thought patterns and our body also often feels safe in familiar spaces more than unfamiliar, and even safer than the environments that we grew in place. And that is also mostly why women stay in community even when they know that the community that they are living in is patriarchal and just not a good place to be for a woman, because they, more than anything, they want safety for this, for themselves. And they know that even if those people are cruel to other women and that they think that shorter clothes cause rape, they just hope that they still are kind enough to offer them a home and just protect them from other people who are out to get them. And there's also something that I think about clothes, that if, and as long as you're following the TPO, time, place, what's the other thing, I don't know what O stands for, time, place, and what, okay, as long as you're following that rule, it doesn't matter what the people are saying. If they think it's immodest, that's just their personal opinion, that it doesn't matter to you, okay? But I don't want you to look the other way when you see these patterns in your life and you're dating. You need to recognize them so you can break free from them and see better results. And also, do not live thinking that you will find a rich husband and live a happy life that way, because if you've heard about the Privileged Few channel, I want you to go on there and just disillusion yourself about marrying rich and the consequences and the stories that come with it. But what it basically is also that rich people don't want Cinderella stories, okay? Less than 10% of them just marry someone off the street. Like they mostly marry other rich women, and the ones who have gone to prestigious institutes for educations, right? Like degrees from Harvard, Stanford, MIT, things like that. And I also feel that the higher up you go into the upper class, the rich people, you will see that more of those people follow traditional rules and religious rules, like not completely, but part of it, enough to oppress women. And even though women, they act and dress like they are modern, they follow the same set of rules in their brains, that they cannot outshine their husbands or go against them for the fear of losing their money or their family's money or reputation. And I even think it is true with pop stars like Ariana or Selena or Taylor Swift. You often see these women trying different men to date, even if they are not at the same caliber as them. And even if they don't look as good as them or are as popular as them, and I don't think everyone could be because they are the top of the top, they also fall into patterns of chronic dating and of just not feeling like they have any value when someone doesn't love them or choose them. And I know they hate being single all the time. And also, not to mention that these men in the higher up positions are often more likely to just inflict violence onto women and children because they think they are weaker and hence easier to handle, as we have seen very recently in the Epstein files. But the other part of it also is that when you are a woman and when you are dependent on someone else for their money, like could be anyone else, but the one that you are dependent on, the second that they take that safety off of you, like the second they stop giving you money, anything happens like that, you will be so distraught, like you will not know what to do. And even that is the case with the trend of I just turn my brain around when I'm around my husband or boyfriend, and I just let them do those things for me. And let me tell you, as someone who lost her dad and I watched my mom go through all the procedures by herself, and honestly, if she did not know a lot about office work, it would have been a really perilous situation for her. And that is also one of the stories of hers that I remember and I want to tell you guys, is that she was like when you were younger, and she used to take me to my school walking. And one time I was like, Mom, I want to get a balloon. And it was 5 rupees or something, I think. And she did not have any money on her at that time. She was like, well, I need to ask your dad for money because I do not have it on me right now. And it wasn't the fact that we were poor or that we couldn't even buy a balloon. It wasn't that. It was just that she just had to rely on my dad for money and to ask him. And she thought, well, what happens in the future when I need money? And then I have to ask. And what if, just things like that. And she then started working because even if it was tough for her, she never wanted to have an experience again when she had to say no to her kids because of the lack of money. That is also one advice I feel like every older woman is going to give you, that you need to make your own money and not just depend on some fairy tale dream or your luck to give you a rich husband or maybe win the lottery. Okay? Because when you give that control to someone else over your finances, they will try to control all other areas of your life. Do chores a certain way or just act and dress a certain way because it then becomes easier to manipulate you. And I'm also telling you that it is never okay to just be careless and ditzy when you are with some other person. Like you cannot offload your brains onto other people and make them do the thinking for you. You cannot just go, even if you're with someone you trust, like your husband or your boyfriend or anyone else, you cannot go into life thinking that okay, now it's the time for me to be ditzy and careless and just not worry about the world, because that is when you will get screwed over. And it just makes you easier to target and to be taken advantage of. And that is why I also emphasize a lot on when you are outside, do not just look down at your phone and walk, or even have your earphones on and just forget about the world. You need to be present in the moment and know your surroundings the best. You need to keep on alert to know the people around you and to know who has good and bad intentions just looking at them. And I also want to add to that by saying that you need to find some functional strength for yourself, like at least be able to pick up your own stuff, like your baggage, at least have as much strength as that. And also learn self-defense. It is really important for you to know how to at least get yourself out of a situation even if you can't fight. Okay, and carry some self-defense tools with you, like a lighter is even enough. I know some places forbid sharp objects, but if you want to, even carry those in your bag. And like know how to do things like bank transactions, wire transfers, how to know how much it costs to get things for your car or the groceries or even stuff for your house like your furniture. And you should also know how to calculate your insurance and know how to earn and invest your money, because you cannot just rely on other people with your money too. You don't need to explain to them how you invest and how you section your money or how much you earn. You need to keep those things to yourself and have your own bank accounts. Don't just dump your money onto someone else or even give out loans or help with money for other people. Like, I know if you trust someone, it's a really noble thing to do, but in the case that you don't know the person well or they have a history of just not returning stuff, don't go down that path. And I thought about this, that with women there are always only two options, right? You can either just work at home or you can earn money. The lesser of two evils to earn your own money. Because these days there's a lot of this trend on TikTok and Instagram to become a trad wife, and even women as young as 18 to 25 are falling victims to those trends. And after they get out of those marriages, or like even when they're in them, they just say that they don't know what to do anymore. Like some of them don't even go to college and have no real life skills aside from the ones that a household needs. And honestly, I think I see where they are coming from, because if you think about it just at the surface level, it's easy to do household chores and then to just sit and relax if the chores are not too much, that is. But it's not always the case, you know. If you have children, you're going to be on duty 24/7, and after that you need to look at your husband's need and your own needs, and sometimes whatever happens in the house is on you. And when you have a job, that seems a third thing on the plate. But oftentimes with a job and with your own money, offload a lot of those things by hiring help, and it also gives you freedom that you will not see if you don't choose that path. And there is no I'll be a wife on my terms if I choose marriage, because you might have to do those things against your will. You might have to just raise kids and do chores even if you don't want to, because it will be expected of you to do so for your own kids. And that is also why I think that the legal age for marriage should be raised up to 25 and above, because at that time the girls have developed their frontal lobes. They know what they need from a marriage, they know what they need from their in-laws, and they are not going to be trapped in situations where they are not appreciated and where they are not violated, you know, not abused mentally or verbally or emotionally by those people. And then they won't be caught up in situations that they don't understand and don't have someone else to explain to them what is happening to them. So honestly, your degrees, your education, and making your own money might be the only things that you need to be content with your life. And also think really, really carefully about kids, because in today's world, even if we have things like almost equal pay and jobs for women, it's an unchanging fact that your entire world flips upside down when you have kids. And to make sure that the world you are raising them in is good to them and is safe for them. So it's to each their own. And honestly, if you ask me, I want to put it off for as long as possible, because right now there is no guarantee that this is a good world for kids, okay? And I saw a reel the other day of a doctor saying that in India it is illegal to check the gender of a baby before their birth. And the doctor was saying that I see all these ladies come in, and when they're all expecting a boy, and they get so disappointed when they see a girl. Like if it is a boy, I've seen the craziest of celebrations happen in that hospital, is what the doctor said. But if it is a girl, there is just an air of unease around the family, and that they've all seen women cry even. And I somehow agree with that sentiment, that it is definitely kinder to the babies to just have not been in the world than to suffer the consequences of people who did not even want them. And I've talked about the book Invisible Women and how women are often kept out the loop. And but there's two more books that I'm planning to read this month. The number one is from the 1950s, I think, The Second Sex by the writer Simone de Beauvoir, I think. And another is Men Teach Me Things. It's a collection of essays. I don't know the writer of it, but I never thought the day would come that I would enjoy psychological books so much. And you know, I'm not trying to read these books to victimize myself, but rather to just see the facts for what they are and to see the world for what it is, and to still try and navigate through it, because despite of everything that I am or happens to me, it's not my full story. And what I become instead of those things will be my story. And I wish I could say that it wasn't me complaining, but I know a part of it was. I just want for women to know where we stand, and all change doesn't happen instantly, but the gradual pace of improvement of the world for the women is undeniable. And I want us to fight against these conditions, war, differences, traumas, because we are human and we are capable of miracles despite all our setbacks. So learn to swim with the current, and it's okay even if you go against it, as long as you don't drown. And we've been through so much already, guys, so what's one more roadblock, right? So let me know your thoughts about this video and these topics, and I'll reply to everyone because I love hearing from you guys. And with that, I urge you to subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.